Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane and we are standing in front of an apartment that is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. It's colorful, it's bold, it's vibrant, but at the same time it's perfectly organized and just has this coherent and beautiful design story. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe. This apartment is the home of a Brazilian and German family of 4 who lives here, and you can just really feel the energy throughout the place. As we come in, we are already in the hallway. The entire hallway has been painted in this bright yellow color, and you just have this bold contrast of this intense, bold yellow color and all of the historic details. For the floor of the apartment, we have historical beams from pitch pine trees, and they just have these beautiful lines all over them, and they're just this beautiful color. And we have very high walls, and the ceilings again have all of this rich wainscoting. The hallway itself is covered in all of these bold accents. For example, on one side we have a piece of wallpaper that is draped over one side, and that again visually marks and accentuates the height of the ceiling. At the same time, we have all of these different pieces of artwork that have been collected throughout their travels, mostly while visiting their family in Brazil, but also while going on a little holiday to Italy or just all over the world. Another detail that I love is this beautifully tinted round mirror that we have. It just reflects yourself as well as your surroundings through this bronze filter, and it just creates yet again another color world. Here we enter the dining area, and as soon as you come in, you see the couple's love for plants. All over the apartment we have gigantic and beautiful plants standing, and you don't just have these little plants that serve as decoration, but the plants really act as sculptures in the apartment themselves. We have a very generous room layout, and in the center of the room we have a gigantic slab of wood that has been turned into the dining table, and around it the family or friends gather to eat. And we have all of these different chairs that are standing around it, and what I love so much about the apartment is just the fact that you just have this constant mix of old and vintage materials and objects that have been found in the flea market and designer items and furniture. And then this contrast is again accentuated through all of the wild and green plants that stand throughout the place. I mean, look at this plant. It's absolutely fabulous. Another thing I love about the apartment is the fact that we just have this beautiful wallpaper draped all over one side. It's again a very modern thing to do, and it really adds this very strong graphic element to the apartment, because we have this black background of the wallpaper and all of these colorful plants and flowers that are just popping off of it, and they just seem very alive. Wallpaper is a great way to break up the square feeling of a room, or like the straight angles in a room, because it just creates a whole another level of dimension. Above the table we have a beautiful bold lamp that is almost like a sculpture. It is just made of these organic shapes that are filled with rattan, and it just looks very eclectic and beautiful. And another favorite of mine in this room is that hanging on the wall we have a plate collection of Fornasetti artworks, and this again is just an organized way to showcase your collection and to add some graphic elements and life to your design. You know, I love creativity and delving into different creative projects, and that's why I'm so excited to partner with Skillshare today, the sponsor of today's video. I'm sure all of you already know Skillshare, the largest online learning community for creative people like you and me. And honestly, the courses on Skillshare have been such a game changer for me for how I approach all of my other interior design projects. And you know, whenever I'm visiting a space, one of my favorite touches of the space are always the way that flower arrangements really bring a space to life. And I found a really cool class on Skillshare that was very inspiring. It's called Modern Flowers, Arranging a Stunning Centerpiece. And basically you get to follow florists around through the process of selecting flowers, selecting vases, and then creating a beautiful flower arrangement. This class is just one of thousands of classes on Skillshare. So if you're ready to level up your creative game, Skillshare is a great place to start, and the coolest thing is the first 500 of you who sign up through the link in the description get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Because the couple has 2 kids in every room, we have little kid stations for them to play. For example, here we have a little drawing area, and even though there's 2 kids living in this room, everything is thought about and the kids' needs are really incorporated into the design. Behind this cork cabinet, there is actually a little home bar hidden, and when you open it, you just have mirrors that are reflecting the light and that just create a little wow moment inside your design. What is so incredible about these historic buildings in Hamburg is the fact that we always have these sliding doors that are always hiding inside of the actual walls. And they allow you to close the space to create a more separate and formal function, or to open it and to just visually let the energy flow through the 2 spaces. So this is actually already the living room area. And again, you can just see how much space there is in this apartment and the meticulous attention to detail and to creating just these beautiful and thoughtful compositions. You can see that the living room itself has an irregular shape because we are like at the corner of a street. So the building isn't actually square at the end, but it's kind of has like a hexagon shape. The room setup is divided into 3 different areas. The carpets on the floor visually separate these areas from each other. We have a piano with a gigantic piece of cow leather lying below it. Over here we have the sofa area, and you can see that above the light blue sofa we again have this beautiful composition, and I believe that this is really where the magic in this design lies, is that on the one hand everything is really eclectic and bold and you have all of these visual details, but on the other hand it's still very organized, nothing is lying around, and that's just very difficult to master. So above the sofa we have 3 shelves that have also been painted in this pastel petrol blue, and on top of them we just have this collection of family memories, trips and holidays the couple went to, and other little objects that inspired them. And even though it's a lot of objects standing around, they are perfectly organized, kind of even sorted by color, and this just again creates this very eclectic and thoughtfully curated place. Like I always say, with plants it's important to not have them standing all over the place, but to have mindful collections of plants, and this is just exactly what has been done here. So over here we again have another little jungle of a bunch of plants, big and small pots and big pots. Sometimes they are elevated. And when you come into this room, you are just really greeted by this fresh and crisp green color of the plant. And they again just create this unexpected aspect to the design because you don't really know where the room ends or how many plants are actually hiding here. Over here is the 3rd little island in the living room. Again, it is visually zoned by a carpet. On top of this brown vintage carpet, we have a very unique brown leather sofa that has also been found on a flea market. Here you can see that we have a lot of different shades of brown that are finding themselves together and just creating this warm and relaxing design. As for the 3 artworks that are framing the wall, they were also found in Brazil, and you can just really feel the Brazilian atmosphere, and the Brazilian art just creates this unique and beautiful vibrancy. Now let me take you to the heart of the home, and that is the kitchen. And I think if I had to decide for one room which was my favorite, at the end it probably would be the kitchen. Because I absolutely adore the blue and white checkered tiles. When the couple moved in here 4 years ago, they were still part of the historic aspects and details of this house. So we don't know when the house was built, but these tiles have been here for a long time. Again, we have the pitch pine wooden floors, which is uncommon, but very cool for a kitchen. And we have the unique moldings and the high ceilings. And you can see that this is where the historic oven used to be, because here we have again tiles on the floor. And I love it when you can just read the historic details in an apartment and just see what the people who built this intended to do or how they lived in the space. And we still have the historic oven. On top of it, we have this one sleek kitchen countertop with black paneling that just fades into the background and just creates a perfectly dark backdrop for all of the colorful objects that we have placed on top of them. And you can see that because we have this black backdrop, something like a red pot or a yellow salt and pepper grinder just really visually pops and just creates this very cool effect. On both sides of the kitchen, we have these shelves added that again act as open storage. And whenever you have open storage solutions, there's always a possibility for them to just go all out of hand because you just completely lose control. But here we again have this meticulous organization and just these beautiful colors that accentuate the design. On the other side in the kitchen, we have a vintage wooden table where the family has breakfast. Again, on top of the table, we have two gigantic farn trees that are just growing and just creating, this dynamic and lively scene in the apartment. On this side, we actually again have another bookshelf that is the same height as the other one. And here we have all of the different cookbooks that the family collects because the family here really likes to cook and to have guests over and to try new recipes. So again, through the beautiful majestic hallway, we enter the bedroom. As you come in, you can see that again, the space is flooded with light. Each of these rooms has actually their own little balcony where you can look outside and look at the historic facades. You can see that we have one square room and all of the walls are kept in white and the ceilings still have these historic rich moldings that we also have in the other rooms. Now, because this is the bedroom, there is a much calmer color palette, but everything is still thoughtfully designed. On one side, we have a gigantic white wardrobe that fades into the background and almost acts kind of like a wall. And behind me, we have a lush, very high profile bed that is very comfortable and just makes you want to jump in. And you can see that the bed is very comfortable and cozy because we have these different layers of fabrics that are put on top of the bed, and we have these overthrows and everything is color coded. Like in every other room, we have a gigantic plant that acts as a sculpture and just adds this freshness. Over here, we again have another little seating situation. We have a small sofa in a dark blue velvet fabric that again just is very luxurious and comforting. And then again, we have some yellow accents, and I just love the attention to color as well as the attention to detail in the space. And on top again, we have an artwork that is from Brazil, as well as a vintage lamp that has been sourced in the flea market. This is the balcony. And over here, you can just enjoy your cup of coffee in the morning, overlooking the beautiful historic facades of Hamburg. Now let me show you the kids' bedroom. Now, this is the kids' bedroom. Because the kids are raised both Portuguese as well as German, they have two separate bookshelves for each, one the German books and one Portuguese books, and they are just on both sides of this beautiful little farmer market. This kids' room just screams of order, and that is because while designing the kids' room, every need of the kids was anticipated and thought about, and storage solutions were created for their toys and their needs. And I just love how colorful and bold and beautifully creative this kids' room is. It's really the heart of the home and the paradise. Another thing that I like is also the molding in the ceiling that has been painted blue, that just again adds this very playful and colorful accent. Or on top of the bed, we actually have a lot of stars added so that when the kids wake up at night, they wake up under the stars. We just have this beautiful, warm and calming atmosphere with a lot of rugs and a lot of textures that enrich the design and that just create this vibrant and fun environment for the kids to grow up in. So this is the first small bathroom. All of the tiles in the bathroom are still original, so we just have these vintage pastel blue tiles that just create this very charming and princess-like atmosphere. And you can see that even this space has been thoughtfully decorated. For example, on top of the sink, we again have a vase with dried flowers, or up here in the corner, we actually have 3 little artworks that have been found on a holiday in South Africa. And again, it's just these details that count. Now, this is the proper bathroom. Let me show you. Again, we have all of these beautiful blue pastel tiles, and here they are actually accentuated with this incredibly colorful and floral wallpaper that has been draped around the top. And you can see that this again creates this luxurious, almost spa-like atmosphere. Again, you can see that the kids' things have their own time and place in the design. So the bottom areas of the shelf are for the kids where they can store their things. And like in the rest of the apartment, we have 1 or 2 unique plants that act as pieces of art and that just add this elegant and vibrant gesture to the place. We have this very tropical bohemian atmosphere because we have all of these rattan baskets where the flowers are kept or where the laundry is kept. So you just have this very light and playful design. Another room that we have in this apartment, and this is the room that is actually mostly usually missing in apartments, and that is a big, generous storage space. And the couple actually decided to not just put all of their things that they aren't using in here and just close the door and never look at it again, but they actually thought about how they want to live, what needs they have, and how to create a space where you actually want to come inside and do your laundry, for example, or where you actually want to come inside and sort in all of your foods. Here we even have a little chalkboard and again some books for the kids. So they also even have their own little area over here. And over here we just have a multitude of functions. You have your laundry area, you have your food storage, and again you have just your beautiful cutlery and ceramic plates that are being stored, but at the same time they're also really visually displayed so that when you come in you just have the possibility to look at something beautiful. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane and we are standing in Hamburg in a 65 square meter apartment that is incredibly eclectic and vibrant, designed by an interior designer. Come in. If you haven't yet, go and subscribe right now. So this is the hallway, and as soon as you enter this apartment, you can see that this is just a masterpiece of design and that every single detail in this apartment has been thoughtfully curated to just create this entire story of a personal apartment. When Michael first rented this apartment, he didn't shy away from really fully making the space his own and really owning the space.
I'm Michael. I'm an interior designer. I'm living in St. Pauli with my 2 cats, and I love color, I love typography.
What I really love about the space and what I really love about the hallway is the fact that we just have a constant pairing of the history of the building paired with really fun, modern and vibrant elements. For example, here in the hallway, the entire upper part of the walls, as well as the ceilings, have just been painted and basically turned into your own wallpaper, and you just have all of these beautiful lines and swirls, and it just creates this very bold postmodern design that I really love. And if you want to elevate and improve your design at home, you can check out the free design guide that I've created. I will link it in the description below, or you can just scan the QR code. So over here is the kitchen, and you can see that it is just a vintage dream. The kitchen is framed by historic tiles that also come from the 19th century when this building was built, and you just have these beautiful white tiles with the blue accents, and they just throw you back into a whole nother world and just create this very nostalgic and charming atmosphere. You just have these beautiful blue tiles paired with the pastel petrol green kitchen, and it just creates this very moody and relaxed atmosphere where you can wind down after a long day Whenever you want to create a very warm atmosphere, it's always a good idea to use a lot of wood that really create a very natural and inviting atmosphere. Another perk whenever you get to design your own kitchen is that you really get to fully customize it. And this is where the magic lies, because for example, when you're standing here, you have your stove, and to your right and your left, you have 2 drawers that you can just pull out while you're cooking.
So this is one of my favorite rooms, the kitchen. I love to host people. I think it's the place on every party where people end up like it's the kitchen. Behind me there's a painting which is saying like, let's eat and dance, and I think it's the best thing that you can do in a kitchen. I'm always playing with words. Every time I have friends coming over, they add another nationality to this board.
Another very unique aspect in this home is the fact that the history was really appreciated and it wasn't tried to cover up. So for example, here we have all of these beautiful historic creeks that weren't covered up, but they're just still original and they were even enhanced.
I came up with the idea to use the kintsugi technique to make it more beautiful, like to show that there is beauty even in something that is destroyed.
Now let me show you the living room. So this is the living room. As we come in, we can see that we are just immersed in a whole entire different worlds of colors. Michael himself calls this room the cotton candy room because we just have all of these different shades of pink, and you just have, again, this very vibrant and colorful atmosphere. When designing the space, the interior designer first had this Tom Dixon chair that is held in a very soft pastel blue, as well as the pink Brühl sofa. And these 2 furniture pieces really were the starting point of the design, and he just created a whole world around them. And you can see that everything in this room kind of reminds you in one or another way of cotton candy, whether it's this white lamp from Grey that just imitates and mimics the shape of cotton candy and just seems like it's floating, or all of the soft and pastel colors that we have here. You were just really immersed in this incredible world. Like I already said in the kitchen, this room feels incredibly soft and just really warm. And the reason for this is because we just have these layers and layers of fabric. The whole entire floor has been covered in this lush, graphic white carpet that just adds this texture and just creates this very soft base in which you can immerse yourself in. And then again, we have all of these different round shapes that just pull you into the design story. On the one hand, this world is very feminine and very soft and plush and light, but you have, again, all of these harsher, more edgy materials that are added. A personal favorite of mine are these fishnet curtains that just have this incredible indigo blue color, and they just really pop off of this pastel soft world that we have here. You can see that the walls have also been covered with wainscoting and wall moldings, just again to create this very historical and old character. And on this side we have 2 historical paintings that frame the wall. The paintings themselves have been customized again, but again he got inspired by the ambient lighting that you would find in a bar. He decided to highlight the 2 paintings with wall sconces.
I really wanted to play in this room with color, so I made a little cotton candy world out of it. And one of my favorite things, and it's something that I highly recommend to everyone, is like, have a disco ball. It just turns to magic and everything sparkles.
Another story that I love is that this vintage sofa table was actually found on the streets in St. Pauli, just 500 meters off here. So you see that great design doesn't always have to be very expensive, but you can just really mix and match what you like. Before I show you the absolutely incredible salon and the guest bedroom, let me show you the primary bedroom. Oh, also, if you haven't yet, go and subscribe right now. Come with me. This is the primary bedroom. Again, we can see that the designer just had a lot of fun when creating this space and creating his own bedroom. You can see that behind me we have a wall that is just its own little gallery. The color palette in this space is much more muted because it's really a space to wind down and calm down. So we have these very soft greens and beiges. Because we don't have that much space, there aren't a lot of things added to the room. We really just have a lush, spacious bed, paired with a cupboard in the same earthy beige tones. Above the vintage cabinet, we have a lamp by Tom Dixon that really is the focal point in this room. As soon as you enter, you just can't help but look at it, and it just beautifully strays and lets the light bounce around the room. We have a historical masterpiece by Boucher that again has been customized and has J'adore Hardcore written on it. And I just love it when you have this interplay of something very classical, but you don't take it too seriously and just create something new and just make it your own. It is again framed by a Rococo frame that is again very flamboyant. You can just see how pairing different elements together just visually creates its own perfect little story. For example, up here we have a whip that is hung up as decoration, and you can just think the rest yourself. Another really fun element that was added are these monster pillows. Now let me show you the bathroom. So this is the bathroom, and what is interesting is that formerly the bathroom didn't exist and you just had a much more bigger kitchen when the building was originally built. And today the bathroom has only around 2.5 square meters, but as soon as you come in, you can't help but feel like you're in a spa. The space has been visually enlarged by a gigantic mirror tiled wall that we have over here, so it already feels like it's double in size. As soon as you enter, you just forget that you're standing in a tight space. Another favorite of mine is the fact that the ceiling has actually been painted gold, and you just have this small chandelier that sprays light everywhere, and you just have this very lush and luxurious moment. So this is the salon that I told you about, and as you can see, we again have our own color world, and you can see that the cat, for example this cat with its ginger hair, is a part of the design, and just wherever it is, just visually adds a pop of color.
This is the place where another magic happens because it's kind of my office. When I work as an interior designer or as a graphic designer, whenever I do something, I want to tell a story. Designing is thinking made visible. I love to go to flea markets and to pick things that are from a different century, from a different time, and combine it with something new.
The room is framed by a big spacious carpet that has a very organic shape and that grounds you. And on top of the carpet we have 2 vintage very low sofa chairs. They were sourced in Spain, and because they have a very low profile, all of the rest of the furniture items in the room, they have been lowered a little bit to just complement the low profile of these 2 chairs. And here you can drink a glass of wine in the evening with your friends, or again have a client meeting. Over here we have a string shelf. You can see that it is both a shelf and a working space. You have this just very compact yet very stylish solution. Because this room isn't too big, we have a gigantic mirror added that just visually enlarges the space, and that just lets the light and all of the different colors bounce around in the room. And because the interior designer has a love for typography, on top of the mirror we have written "The magic is in you." So you can see that every single piece of furniture in this apartment has been fully customized and just thoughtfully designed. Another great trick to visually enlarge a space is to take away all of the doors that you don't need. So over here we have a gigantic frame, and because the door was taken away, we just have this much grander feeling of it actually being a villa much more than being a house. And again, you can see that the room gets its atmosphere because of the beautiful colors. So we have again the wall moldings in a soft, crisp green, paired with the rest of the walls, as well as the ceilings being painted in soft pastel pink tones. Let me show you the guest room. So this is the guest room, and it's just a blessing whenever you have an extra room that you can turn into your bedroom. And the interior designer Michael decided to just create a perfect hotel-like experience for his guests. This is the bed that you get to stay in, and you can just see that again you have your whole entire different world of colors, and the entire room itself is very calm and grounding because we have these muted, dark, soft blues and greens. The interior designer has a big passion for impressionist paintings and artworks, so he decided to drape this French wallpaper all over the side of the wall, and this just visually really creates a much more interesting design. Whenever you have a tight space, people always shy away from putting big artworks there or just to really being bold with their design choices, but these are actually the spaces where you need to be the most bold, because if a lot is happening in the room, you often forget about the size of the room. So this gigantic wallpaper is the way to go. Over here we have a small golden bedside table that again reflects the light that is coming in from the window. What's actually also really interesting about this room is that behind this big cupboard we actually have a second entry doorway hiding behind it. So the question is what actually was formerly happening in this room, because this apartment actually used to have 2 entryways. This lamp is also a really cool invention. It is designed also by Grau, the same designers as in the living room. And it just is also a very versatile, functional lamp that you can use to read, or you can just use it to illuminate different artworks and to just create this ambient atmosphere. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. Today we are going to look at a beautiful 100 square meter apartment in the center of Hamburg that has been renovated by a couple who bought this apartment when it was basically a ruin. Somebody had lived here for over 80 years and smoked throughout his entire time, so the apartment was completely covered in black, oily nicotine film, and this is how they remodeled it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. So as we enter, we can already see that this apartment really just extends into a lot of different rooms, and we have a really spacious layout. The building was built in 1903, which is why we just have this really beautiful old building with a very modern design. So the beauty of these old buildings is the fact that you always have a lot of really beautifully structured old elements, such as the window frames or the door frames or the beautiful plaster moldings in the ceiling or this beautiful rosette on top of the lamps. And another really cool thing about these beautiful historic buildings is the fact that you always have the rooms framed by a lot of windows. And one thing that I didn't know that I think is actually really interesting is that here, where you can see the wall, there actually used to be a window, because if you look closely you can see that actually a window is missing. And this is a phenomena that you actually find in a lot of old historic buildings around Hamburg, because a long time ago people actually had to pay taxes for the amount of windows that they had. So often the owners would cover up 1 or 2 bit windows. And this is the exact same thing that has been done here, that actually a window has been covered up. And because this apartment is so old, you have all of these beautiful old structured architecture, such as these really high ceilings or the really high doors that go all the way up. And I think that it's just really beautiful. So we are already right now in the living room, and as you can see, the colors of the living room are very muted. You have this really beautiful pastel light green that really creates a very calming atmosphere. And you can see that the color of the green walls really correspond beautifully to the trees that we have outside, and you just have this melange of different colored greens, and you can find this green color throughout the design. And what I really love about the way that the color has been used is that not only do the different types of rooms seamlessly flow into each other, like I said, this is the living room and you can just walk right to the kitchen, but also the color stays the same, but it changes slightly. We can see that the design language of this overall of the living room really consists of simple square geometry paired with a lot of round accents. So yet again we have all of these, like the square dining table, square cabinets, but then you have all of these like round lamps and organic shapes, and this really like breaks up the design and creates a much more fluffy and light design. This door that really connects the kitchen to the living room has also been completely closed and you weren't able to see anything. And when they bought this place and they uncovered it, they didn't actually know that here you would actually find these beautiful historic doors that are over 100 years old. And I feel like this is just an amazing find if you buy a place and you just find these beautiful historic wooden doors. And you can see all of the historic details. If you have the possibility to live in a beautiful historic place, that doesn't mean that you have to stick to the old architecture, but rather through modern elements and through modern design, you can really enhance the old architecture and yet create something unique and something new. So for example, here, like I said, we have the beautiful Vitra chair, or here we have these really classical, modern, mid-century chairs. Through the contrast of these like old and new pieces, you really have this just beautiful and unique mix that really represents what your personal design taste is like. Or here, another thing I really like, of course, is we have all of these beautiful Werner Panton lamps, and we can find them repeated throughout the space, and they really add like a sense of cohesion throughout the design. So here we have them a really dark green, and they really like frame the table. I love it always if you don't have just one lamp, but if you have 2 or 3 lamps, I feel like repetition is always a really cool thing. Here we have 2 living room lamps. And again, because it's not just one lamp, it doesn't really feel lost, but you have 2 really big, confident lamps that really like take up the space and really own the space. And here the living room seamlessly opens itself up to the kitchen. And I love the fact that they just opened the space up and just created this really symmetrical entrance that really connects the 2 spaces in a very grand gesture, rather than just having like a small door on the side. And then you just have this perfect line, this perfect long kitchen block. So here we have a more darker green that acts as a more neutral and more of a calmer backsplash for the kitchen. Everything in this apartment is really minimalistic and every detail has been thought through. So the owners build a lot of things by themselves, so everything is really built in and you can just really feel that everything has been really properly done. What I love about this kitchen is the fact that it is just one single block that spreads from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. So it's like a really bold but yet simple statement. And you have 3 beautiful lamps on top of the kitchen that really frame the space. And through this repetition of the lamps, the space feels really like thoroughly thought through. The kitchen countertop is made from sintered stone, which has like this beautiful rough texture, so it feels really warm and comfortable to work with. And you have this open gas stove, which is really cool because these days you don't really have this. We have a lot of really fun posters, such as these 2, that really integrate fruits and vegetables into the kitchen, and you know that this is a space where a lot of cooking and a lot of fun happens. In the kitchen we have just perfect compositions, such as the brown color of the farm table and the pink accent of the Werner Panton lamp. And again, we have all of these like beautiful green accents of the dark green wall or of the plants, and this just creates like a really homey, warm design. And I feel like why this design also works so well is because even though the main color of the kitchen is dark green and the colors used are quite neutral, I feel like all of the light that is used is really warm. It just feels like there's a really nice atmosphere created through the light in the kitchen. When the owners bought this place, they didn't know that underneath the old carpet that used to be inside this apartment, you actually had beautiful spruce wood hiding underneath. And well, they took away the carpet and now they just have this newly, perfectly spruce wood wooden floor that is over 100 years old, and these days it's impossible to get exactly this type of wood. And another thing that's really cool is in the bathroom they actually use the wooden beams to create a unique piece of furniture. Here again we can see that you just have these beautiful door frames that just make the entry and exit from any room really unique and beautiful. So one of the owners has a really big talent for working with wood. He actually created a lot of the pieces, the wooden cabinets that you can find here by himself. Here we have just this beautiful big wooden cabinet that really frames the hallway and yet adds a lot of storage space that just like completely hides away all of your clutter. So if you walk through the hallway, you just have this big, airy, empty hallway, but because of this giant cabinet that goes all the way to the top, you still have a lot of storage space to hide away everything that you have. And I feel like what makes this feel so airy is the fact that on the one hand, it seems really like integrated because it extends all the way to the ceiling. What I love about this hallway is also the use of lighting. So they didn't shy away from, again, framing the hallway with 2 beautiful sconces and add very geometric touches. The kitchen and the living room were both in 2 different shades of green, and here the color switches to a blue. As you move from one room into the next, the color changes and also the mood slightly changes. And if we go right directly to the office is actually beige, but it looks really pink while you're in the hallway because of the contrast. And you can see that once we are actually inside the office, you still have this like warm hue, but it is just really enhanced through the hallway. Here again, we have a very inbuilt interior design. Rather than having like a lot of small closets and cupboards and a lot of small pieces, you just have these like big statement pieces that really ground the space. You aren't overwhelmed by your senses because you don't have like 5 small cupboards standing here. And I think that that's always a really good idea. This is a Luby Softline sleeping sofa, which is really cool because I feel like it looks really modern and sleek, and it extends into a guest bedroom if you have guests staying over. And over here we have the home office, which is also very minimalist, but you can just see in all of the details how much thought was put into every single piece of furniture that we can find here. In front of me we have a beautiful balcony that extends into the garden, and you just have a piece of outside and nature framed by the big windows. And I feel like balconies, even if it's just a small balcony, they just add so much quality of life to any space because you just have more of a connection to outside. And again, in this room we have like a really muted color palette, whereas in the living room we had more of calms, greens and blues. Here we have really dark and warm muted colors. I feel like all of the rooms in this apartment have their like really personal atmosphere and like personality, so when you enter them you feel a certain way, you feel a certain sense of coziness, comfortness. Now we will go inside the bedroom. This bedroom again is a vintage dream that you can just wish it was yours. We have this beautiful space of I think around 6 to 6 meters, which is a perfect size for bedrooms. This is what you always learn. As a wall color you just have this really muted beige that really creates a very like earthy and grounding atmosphere. Again, we have the beautiful dark brown spruce wooden floor, and you just feel really, really calm. And what I love, if you have this much space, just have the possibility to create like a really perfectly symmetrical space. So in the center of the bedroom, you have of course the bed. To both sides of the bed, you have simple yet beautiful bedside tables that are framed by these black light sculptures. And I think that this is just really sleek. And opposite of the bed, you have again a perfectly symmetric repetition of two cupboards that have been connected to create like a sideboard. And again, they created a perfect composition that you could just take a picture of and it would be perfect. Another thing I really love is if people manage to incorporate their personal identity and just their personal, basically life story into their designs. One of the owners is a school teacher, so the owner really managed to incorporate her identity of being a school teacher into the design. So here we have a really old vintage school chair, and this is what is used to basically put your clothes at the end of the long day. You just have this like multi-purpose space that again really tells your personal story, and I just really love that if that happens. Over here we have a beautiful lamp. It's called, I think, the lamp by Hay. And again, here we have just a massive inbuilt closet that just really like fades away into the background. For your perception, it almost acts like a wall. You feel like there's nothing hiding here, but it's just really about making simple but really big and profound gestures. Those are what really create like this calming atmosphere. Now we will go inside the bathroom. This is the bathroom. It is very minimalist, clean. The colors are all mostly grays and whites. You just have really beautiful light because of this beautiful sconce. I love it. I once already saw this lamp in the Milan Design Week and I was just obsessed with it because it's really just like a light bulb. So here we have an inbuilt shower that really just hides itself away from the bathroom and that just creates yet a room inside the bathroom. Here we have an oval mirror. I told you before that the owners of this place used the spruce beams of the apartment to create a really unique piece of furniture, and this is it. So here we have these really old spruce wooden beams. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane and we are standing in an old warehouse that has been transformed into a gigantic, incredible, vibrant loft. If you like eclectic and bold interior design, this video is for you. Also, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. Come in. As we come in, you can see that this space has been transformed into a bold, colorful, eclectic, and vibrant space. Before the owner decided to transform this apartment into a loft, the building was formerly a warehouse, and the outside is very characteristic for the buildings that we have in Hamburg. And you just have these beautiful old brick buildings with a lot of history and with a lot of charisma to them. As soon as we enter this apartment, we are just transported in a completely different world. You can see that we have one gigantic space. The loft itself has 2 bedrooms, but as we come in, we just have one big expansive space. And you can see that it's a perfect place to host a party, have some guests come over. Over here, we are already in the entryway area, and here we have the first little sofa situation. You can see that over here, we already have a little seating area that was really used throughout the entire loft, is to just go bold with color, and you just have all of these different bold colors paired with each other. For example, over here we just have this vibrant picture of a parrot, and it's really just the color that transports the emotion and creates the magic in the space. Another great thing that was used in the space is the fact that we have a lot of sources of light and we have a lot of different lamps. Also, the wall behind me, we have 2 sconces that frame the painting. You are greeted by this gigantic column, and this actually is quite an unlucky situation as soon as you enter an apartment and are just greeted by this gigantic square column that you don't want to see. But the designer decided to turn this into focal point by adding the pink typography. You are welcomed into the space. It's an element of surprise, and it just really turns an unlucky situation into a thoughtfully curated one. Throughout the loft, you can see that the owners had a lot of fun when designing it. Nothing is too conventional, nothing is not allowed. We are entering the dining room table, and you can see that we have a dining room table that is around 5 meters long, and it was also custom made. You can see that the top of the dining room table is literally just a big beam of wood. And we have all of these different colorful chairs standing around, and you can see that the theme that was chosen here is really just to have as much fun as possible and to just create a really playful design. On top of the table, we have the head of a hippo standing. That is also a flower pot, and this is just again a really fun and humorous detail. As for the chairs, a lot of them are vintage and have this shabby chic style, and this again further enhances the character of the loft. The dining room area itself is framed by a bunch of different lamps that are hanging on top of it, and they again create the coherent visual design of the space. It's really the lamps above us that visually zone this area and turn it into a secluded space, even though this is a very open concept. Because the space was formerly a warehouse, we have these incredibly high ceilings that just allow for a lot of improvisation and for a lot of fun. And the floor is also still original. We just have this very old rustic floor that is black. It's very versatile. You can do anything with it. You can walk around with your shoes. It's easy to clean. One of my favorite details in this apartment, like in any loft, is the fact that we have 2 arrays of windows from both sides. They just really flood the space with light. As you can see, they just give the open room itself an underlying structure. When we enter the living room area, you can again see that the living room has been turned into its own little space because of the big round carpet that we have below it. The carpet itself has a round shape and it's made from rattan, and it just again brings some natural materiality to the space. You can see that every single seating area over here is completely different. We have a gray sofa, we have a green version of the Lean Rosé Togo chair, and then again we have 2 very industrial looking orange chairs, and they just complement each other very well. And you can see that you don't have to follow strict rules, but you can just really create your own story when creating something. Again, this space has been zoned by having a gigantic oversized chandelier hanging on top of the living room area. The chandelier adds a little element of glam and luxury. Another perk of having really high ceilings is the fact that you can visually accentuate the height that you have with curtains. And here a really cool trick was actually used, because custom curtains with a custom size are actually really expensive. But what's really cool here is that the owners actually just bought regular sized curtains and then just halved them and then just added mix and matched different curtain halves together. And because of this, we just have this gigantic, let me show you. So like here, so basically this is one curtain, and then the second one they just added some more of another piece of curtain. And because of this, we just have the custom height, we have a custom design, and the curtains just really go very well with the entire bold and fun design of the loft. Another simple element that really just adds a lot of character to your home and that just really makes sure that the place feels like it's very alive is by adding a lot of plants. Whether it's big green plants or flowers or roses or cactuses, plants are a great way to go if you use them mindfully to just really, again, add life to your design, because they just have these very organic shapes and irregular forms, and this just really breaks up any rigid square space. Before I show you the 2 bedrooms, let me show you our kitchen. So the kitchen itself is also located in the big open space, and it is visually kept in a much more minimalist and industrial style compared to the rest of the apartment. We actually have a built-out base as the kitchen counter. This incredible kitchen has then just been mix and match with other different elements. So on top we again have open shelves. You can see that the entire kitchen as well as the shelves have been kept very minimalist and very industrial, and it's really the colorful items that make the design pop and that visually integrate into our colorful story. And whenever you're drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, you just have the light coming in from the beautiful big windows. Over here we have a kitchen island that is also made from a big slab of wood, and you just have this very spacious and generous layout because we do not have a lack of space here. And you can see that even if we have a look at the plates, they perfectly fit into the design story. All of these plates are sourced from different vintage secondhand shops, and you just have all of these different beautiful historic vintage patterns or colors, and it just really elevates and accentuates the design. So this is the first bedroom. This is the primary bedroom, and you can see that we don't have a lot of space, and this is why we don't have a lot of details on the walls, but that they are kept quite minimal. But what really, again, creates this unique design is the fact that we just have this light and soft color world. The walls aren't white, but they are painted in this very soft, sandy beige. And then again, we have all of these red, orange, and just very warm details. And whenever you want to create a comfortable and warm atmosphere, the way to go is to just use a lot of different sources of fabric. This is the second bedroom. It has much more space than the first one. And you can again see that the walls are kept in the sandy beige to really calm you down and wind you down after a long day. And the color palette here is again kept in these soft blues and reds, and we just have again a very colorful but muted design language. Through simple pops of color such as the red vintage lamp, we again have these sources of warmth and sources of vibrancy that don't overstimulate you when you're trying to go to sleep. This is the bathroom. You can again see that the color world is kept in these very beiges and in a lot of beige, and we have a very tropical flair. There wasn't a lot done to the bathroom, but the overall vibe of this bathroom really is just a very tropical, beachy atmosphere. The walls are painted in a light brown, and we have 3 different round golden mirrors that create a little composition above the sink, and they again are accentuated through 2 sconces on both sides. And again, it's the small elements that create this very tropical flair. For example, the rattan floor mat below me, or the monkey vase, or the vibrant plant. And the star of the show, I believe it looks better at night, is a gigantic modern chandelier that we have hanging above us. And over here we have the proper bathroom with a shower, toilet, and another small sink. Let me know in the comments if you like bold design like these, or if you prefer more minimalist lofts. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.